to CACFP Administrative Workshop. Do want to remind everyone that we are getting some feedback, so please do mute your line. Also, did want to note that if you would like to download the slides from this workshop, you can through Skype. If not, please enter your email address and we can email the slides to you. All right, by the end of this training, you should have the tools to understand program requirements, including recent changes, eliminate errors and audit findings, and to perform your job with confidence. Feel free to ask questions at any time during the training. Definitely you can type them in the chat box and we will be able to answer them. Participants can complete an evaluation of the training at the end of this workshop using the SurveyMonkey link that we will have available. We do encourage your feedback and suggestions to help improve webinars and other trainings in the future. To receive credit for participating in this webinar, watch till the end of the webinar and then use the link provided to register your attendance so you can get credit and your certificate for this training. Today we will be covering program updates, civil rights, determining eligibility, and announcements and resources. Nutrition and wellness positively impact the health and success of all children. The ability of young children to be successful in kindergarten and in later years depends upon their experiences during the first 5 years of life. These early years set the stage for developing lifelong behaviors, habits, and values. KSDE recognizes the importance of early childhood education. Therefore, kindergarten readiness is one of the 5 outcomes the Board of Education is measuring. Students who participate in high-quality early learning programs consistently outperform their peers who do not. So we will begin by going over some program updates in the child nutrition programs. So in December 2018, USDA released the final rule, Child Nutrition Program Flexibilities for Milk, Whole Grains, and Sodium Requirements. USDA acknowledges the menu planning can be challenging, that some sponsors have experienced in the past, and wants to give sponsors more control over food service decisions and greater ability to offer wholesome and appealing meals that reflect local preferences. So milk flexibility, this will apply to CACFP, and the milk flexibility allows flavored, low-fat, 1%, low-fat milk to be offered to children ages 6 and older and adults. So this final rule was put in place to offer consistency across programs. So now that schools can offer flavored low-fat milk, we want to be able to have CACFP offer flavored low-fat milk to children ages 6 and older. There's also milk variety. So schools must offer an unflavored milk at each service. So schools are not allowed to offer flavored fat-free and flavored low-fat milk. Like they have to have a unflavored option. So schools can offer a low-fat unflavored and a fat-free unflavored to meet this milk variety requirement, just not both flavored options. And also, this milk variety does not apply to CACFP and SLP after-school snack programs or the special milk program. These program services do not have this requirement because they are smaller in size and resources. So, a quick question: does the milk flexibility and variety outlined in the final rule extend to preschool meal patterns? The answer is no. So the milk flexibility and variety requirements do not extend to the preschool meal pattern. However, say in a school, they have preschoolers and older children who are being, say, are served in the same service area and at the same time, so they're commingled. And that school is offering the K through 5 meal pattern. Well, in this case, preschoolers may be served flavored milk as part of a reimbursable meal. So we're going to go on to the CACFP meal pattern, and that will be Diana. So let me go ahead and unmute. She can unmute herself.
Okay. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. So going on with some more detail that Hannah mentioned, as far as the final rule, another part was that grains have to be credited using ounce equivalents instead of servings as credited under the previous meal pattern requirements. This change ensures consistency across all the nutrition programs. Ounce equivalents are actually slightly more than the current serving size requirement for CACFP. But a side note here, there's a proposed rule to delay implementation of this grain to ounce equivalence requirement in CACFP. This proposed rule would delay it for 2 years. And they are accepting comments about this through July 31st, 2019. And so I would encourage you, if you feel that might be a good idea, to comment through the federal e-rulemaking portal at www.regulations.gov. And it provides instructions right there for submitting comments. And they do listen to those comments. When we had presenters at our conference, they do pay attention to those. So that would be worth taking a little bit of time to do. But in lieu of that, we're moving forward to get you guys up to speed with what you need so that you understand what grain to ounce equivalents are, and also just being able to incorporate whole grains into your meal pattern. And so we're offering the Grains 101 training again throughout the state from edge to edge, corner to corner, August 28th, Garden City, September 4th in Overland Park, September 19th in Manhattan, September 26th in Wichita, and in October 3rd drops down to Greenbush. So we've got the state covered to help you be able to implement those changes, but also that training focuses on whole grains and using them in our meal pattern as well. Another significant change in meal pattern this past year was implementing the new meal pattern for the infants. The Feeding Infants in CACFP guide is now available, and that's a training tool for operators to use at their child care site. This guide's available through Team Nutrition. It was updated to reflect the new meal pattern changes, but it also covers developmental readiness, hunger and fullness signs, breast milk handling, infant formula handling. Also, it provides communication tools to help with deciding and documenting as you introduce solids and as the child progresses through developmental readiness. It has a lot of great information in it. That tool is available online right now, and also through you can order a copy as well. And watch the CACFP update coming out later this month. It will have more information about that. Register today, though, if you're interested in attending a Feeding Infants in a CACFP training. That will be an overview of all things feeding infants, and it will take place on September 10th and 2019 in Wichita. There are stipends available for sponsors who attend as part of the CACFP training grant, and that is the a training that you would want to attend, and as well, if possible, send maybe your lead teacher in your infant room, because that's going to help get everybody up to the speed on the latest meal pattern questions for infants. One question that we've had come up is talking about pancakes, because new meal patterns got a little shift in some of the meal pattern details. One thing we're seeing that pancakes are being served as, are they credible at snack in the infant meal pattern? Well, pancakes are, yes, credible. They're found in Exhibit A. They're developmentally appropriate for an infant that's starting solids, and they're credible in the infant meal pattern for a snack. They're considered bread-like and can be served at snack only. Breads, crackers, ready-to-eat cereals are credible at snack. This is just one of the many details that are going to be covered in the September 10th training in Wichita. Now, another point, some things to note for this, school sponsors. We have a lot of sponsors that are having preschool classrooms that are on the CACFP program, and so they have a double set of rules to follow in a way. There's a few differences between CACFP and NSLP that school sponsors want to be aware of. If they're serving pre-K children, they still follow the NSLP rules and regulations for a reimbursable meal and follow the professional standards requirement. But the meals served must be consistent with CACFP 3 to 5-year-old age group meal pattern requirements. Flavored milk, as far as the National School Lunch Program, they can have non-fat milk is allowable, and it can be flavored, but all milk served to children 3 to 5-year-olds must be unflavored unless they're commingled. And remember, commingled is if you mix in the preschoolers with the kindergartners at the same meal. Sugar limits for breakfast and cereal. While schools don't have a sugar limit, CACFP does. So where there's a limit for CACFP, that affects the schools serving preschool age children in a separate CACFP setting. Meat alternate requirements. Again, 3 to 5-year-olds, as everybody knows, is a meat requirement is 1.5 ounce equivalent. And the NSLP, it's allowable that they have 1 ounce per day as long as a weekly minimum is met. So watch when you're using school nutrition menus for preschool age children. On the days there's just 1 ounce of meat, you need to add something extra so that that preschool age child would get that extra 1/2 ounce if they needed additional 1/2 ounce to meet the meat alternate requirement. Another item that's come up that's a little different between the two programs is Smart Snacks in school. Smart Snacks meet the requirement in schools, but they don't automatically meet the requirement for CACFP meal pattern. A good example is granola bars. That meets the Smart Snack guideline, but it doesn't. It's now considered in the CACFP to be a grain-based dessert, so it doesn't meet the meal pattern for CACFP. Other things that have changed this year in crediting, in April 2019, a number of policy memos came out allowing for foods previously not credited in child nutrition programs. And I would encourage you to look at these menus to get the details. I'm going to just touch on some of the things that are most commonly found in our centers. One is maybe dried or semi-dried meat, poultry, seafood products in child nutrition programs. And that would be, it allows the crediting of shelf-stable, dried and semi-dried meat, poultry, seafood snacks toward the meat component. But you have to have a CN label so that you know how much is actually meat. The other thing with any of these is the point of it is to help allow more variety in the meals, but some of these things aren't always appropriate for our littlest participants, that they might contribute to a choking hazard. So you'd want to look at your food buying guide for child nutrition programs to see just how much of those are going to credit toward your meal pattern, as well as the product formulation statement or CN label for that product. Another memo 09/2019 allows crediting of coconut, hominy, masa, and corn flour in child nutrition programs. And so this is some interesting information. I have seen hominy on the menu. 1/4 a cup canned drain credits as 1/4 a cup starchy vegetable. But other than that, I don't see a lot of coconut on menus. And corn flour is an ingredient. That might be something that if you're using something that has corn flour or cornmeal, you could look at this menu to get more details on how to credit that. The crediting popcorn, though, that caught a lot of people's eye. That's a new change. Popcorn now credits as a whole grain. 3/4 cup of popcorn is considered 1/4 of an ounce of whole grain, and it takes 3 cups to credit as 1 ounce equivalent as whole grain. This is a good example where your school-age kids, they may be able to eat 3 cups of popcorn, but the littlest guys, measure that out and see how much that is. That's quite a lot of popcorn for little guys, plus issues with swallowing, safety. So it is nice to have variety, and so this might be helpful in a center to increase some options. But if it is a product that is commercially prepared, and it has popcorn in it along with other things, you would need a product formulation statement to know how much of that is really popcorn versus the other ingredients. And a product formulation statement, though, would not be required if it was an all popcorn packaged product. But if it's a mixture, a snack mix, or popcorn cakes, or maybe crackers made from ground popcorn, then it would need a product formulation statement. Also, the other caveat is that when popcorn's served, they encourage program operators to limit the use of toppings such as salt, caramel, cheese, and butter that would add sodium, sugar, and saturated fat. And you need to use your discretion when determining whether a popcorn product could be perceived as a grain-based dessert. Another product that is new, this was Memo 11-2019, crediting surimi in child nutrition programs. Surimi is a seafood that's pasteurized, ready to eat, and it's made from pollock, and now you can credit it as a meat alternate. Another option is tempeh. That is a highly nutritious fermented soybean cake that's traditionally made from whole soybeans, and that can be used as a meat alternate in a variety of recipes, including stir fries, sandwiches, and salad. And 1 ounce of that credits as 1 ounce of meat alternate. The centers that have a lot of non-meat participants, as a lifestyle choice, would like that as an option. This would be a good substitute perhaps there. And again, look at those memos for more details. Another change has been crediting pasta products made of vegetable flour in child nutrition programs. Now, pasta made of vegetable flour is going to count as a vegetable, even if the pasta is not served with another recognizable vegetable. Whole vegetables cut into noodles or spirals, such as spiralized vegetables, sweet potatoes. I don't know if everybody's seen zoodles. I mean, it's zucchini noodles. Those will continue to credit toward the respective vegetable subgroups based on the volume served. Consistent with vegetable crediting, a 1/2 cup of pasta made of 100% vegetable flours is going to count as a 1/2 cup of vegetables. Pasta products made with a blend of 100% vegetable flours from multiple vegetable subgroups may credit in 2 ways. If you have a product formulation statement dealing with the actual volume of each vegetable per serving, the product can credit toward those specific vegetable subgroups. Or if the actual volume of each vegetable flour is unknown, the product may credit toward the additional vegetables needed from any vegetable subgroup to meet the overall weekly vegetable requirements. So pasta products made from vegetable flour and other non-vegetable ingredients can credit toward daily and weekly vegetable requirements. In the case of legumes, meat alternate requirements, and with the product formulation statement, detailing the actual volume of vegetable flour per serving. This crediting doesn't apply to grain-based pasta products that contain small amounts of vegetable powder or color. For example, the spinach or sun-dried tomato type noodles or macaroni. This crediting doesn't remove the visual recognition requirement for legume pasta crediting toward meat alternate component. A 1/2 cup of cooked pasta made of 100% legume flour can credit as 2 ounces equivalent of meat alternate. And to credit as a meat alternate, pasta made of legume flour must be offered with additional meat alternates such as tofu, cheese, or meat. Legumes can credit as a vegetable or a meat, but can't credit as both in the same meal. In an effort to help children understand what foods are in their meals and snacks, program operators must indicate using signs or other nutrition education that pasta made of vegetable flour is a vegetable and not a grain component of the meal. For example, pasta made of chickpea flour could be labeled chickpea pasta, with a symbol showing it to be part of the vegetable component of a meal. And local program operators must also be trained to recognize a reimbursable meal. Serving line staff or classroom teachers helping serve family-style meals should be informed when pasta is made with vegetable flour is offered and understand how pasta contributes toward the reimbursable meal. So let's look at some examples of these products. These are really something new. In 20 years ago, you wouldn't have seen this thing. It's kind of the blurring of the lines of the different food groups here. But let's see what some of these labels and some of these products might look like in the store. So here's a product. Does this product require a product formulation statement? And it's Spiral's Complete Protein Pasta. Well, yes, this product contains vegetable flour, red lentil flour, as well as other non-vegetable ingredients, white rice, pea protein. So a product formulation statement is required in order to determine how this product would credit, because basically you've got three different, at least two different groups there. The next one is a green pea rotini, high protein. Does this product need a product formulation statement? Well, the ingredients are 100% organic green pea flour. No, this product doesn't require a product formulation statement. The only ingredient in this product is green pea flour. Therefore, this pasta would credit for half a cup of pasta, or equal to a half a cup of this product as a pasta would equal a half a cup of vegetable or starchy vegetable because it's made of the green pea flour. And that's all that's in it. Next is a 100% organic red lentil product, high protein, and it's made of 100% organic red lentil flour. This product doesn't require product formulation. The only ingredient in the product is red lentil flour. Therefore, this pasta would credit the half a cup of that would be a half a cup of vegetable, or because it's a legume, which can go either way, it can also, half a cup would credit as a 2-ounce meat alternate if you had another meat alternate served with the meal. So this is a one that can go into two groups, but it doesn't need a product formulation statement. The next one is a power protein pasta red lentil rotini. So a little different package, but also a little different when it comes to the ingredients. This product contains vegetable flour, red lentil flour, as well as other non-vegetable ingredients, quinoa, and so a product formulation statement is required in order to determine how this product would credit. So in all these different ways of crediting, it's increasing in variety, but also increasing responsibility when you're shopping to know how much and what types of food to get. Along with that, the updated interactive web-based tool, the Food Buying Guide, will help us do that. It takes all the information previously contained in the printed PDF version of the Food Buying Guide, including the introduction, yield tables, and then adds some more enhanced features to help you be able to search by food groups and narrow the search down by category, do a side-by-side comparison of the foods and the food categories. You can compare canned carrots with diced fresh carrots and see which meets your needs, or create and save your own favorite foods list so you can access those things quickly later. Users that would like to continue having a print version of the Food Buying Guide, you can still download and print a PDF copy of the Food Buying Guide yield information. That feature will be coming soon, and so watch for that. There are also additional features in the web-based tool that we'll talk about here in a second. So exactly what is the food buying guide? The food buying guide is the essential resource for food yield information for all nutrition programs. Your yield information helps operators know how much food to purchase and how that food will contribute to the meal pattern requirements to ensure that children are getting enough food. But also it's important for you to manage your program to make sure there's not an over purchasing of foods and wasting. So it's getting the right amount of the right thing. The food buying guide has gone digital, though. It has a mobile app as well, and as well as the web-based interactive tool. The mobile app was released last year and is available both in the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. And so you can literally take it right to the grocery store with you. Both the interactive web-based tool and the mobile app, users are able to search and locate the yield information and compare it and determine which things meet your needs and create a list of favorite foods. And then you can actually email and print your search results and your food comparisons so that you've got a written copy of it. On the web-based interactive tool for the food buying guide, you can access it either as a guest or as a registered user. Registered users have access to key components of the interactive tool, such as creating and saving your favorite food list for future reference. You can do that by week, and then you'll have your grocery list started for the week. Two other features include, for the registered users, are the Recipe Analysis Workbook and the Product Formulation Statement Workbook, and those are other two helpful tools. There's no cost to use this tool, and it's out there, and they're keeping it up to date as fast as they can. Another tool that's being developed and put out there to help with grains is the Exhibit A grains tool. The Exhibit A list on for our grains is telling us how to credit grains. The Exhibit A grains tool has been enhanced so that it allows users to search the grain product as listed in Exhibit A and enter the serving size listed on the product label. That tool will then help determine the ounce equivalent grains or the grain bread servings for the grain product. And so this, in the following months, we'll see the second part of the Exhibit A grains tool to include additional capability to determine the number of serving a program needs to serve to obtain a specific meal pattern contribution. So they're doing everything they can to help us be able to quickly decide and choose the right amount of foods to serve our participants. And this grain tool is going to make, I think, grain to ounce equivalents a lot easier. So in light of that, just like the rotary phone or 8-track and cassette tapes, the calculation guide is going to be retiring. KSDE will no longer be maintaining that, and the sponsors should use the food buying guide to determine yield. The guides, since it's continuously updated, it makes us the food buying guides continuously updated, and the calculation guides just not going to be able to keep up, and so it's going to retire. And using the food buying guide will keep you up to speed with the latest calculations needed. Next, Tara is going to talk to us about transport sheets.
All right, we're going to look at the transport sheets. As you guys have noticed, as you've been on the website, we do have some updated transport sheets. They are available on our website. There's a few little changes on them, and a little bit to try to make them a little bit easier to read and a little more useful. So feel free to get over to our website and grab those transport sheets as needed. They do need to be kept on file with all your records, just like all your other CACFP records, and we will review them when we come out on site. So looking at reviews, we're going to look at a couple of our top 10 review findings that we found within the last program year. As you can see, some of them, a lot of them that we find are inaccurate free and reduced price eligibility determinations. This thing is really something that we really focus on as very important because it could lead to a rather large claim adjustment if our determinations are not made correctly. Another thing that we look at is our income eligibility documentation that goes back with our determinations, just making sure that everything is determined correctly and we have all of our supporting documentation for it. Another one is our meal count consolation errors. Sometimes we get second checks, even third checks to make sure that when we're looking at all of our X's through the entire month, they do add up, and it's always great to have another set of eyes look at those as well. Sometimes we will find our enrollment forms missing, incomplete, or just outdated. And also something that we talked about last year for admin workshop, and the requirement was the WIC information was not being distributed to parents or posted for parents to see. Another one that we are finding with our meal pattern findings is grain-based desserts. We're still being credited as grains, as well as some of our whole grain rich items not being served daily. As we all know now, there is a requirement 1 grain per day must be whole grain rich, and that is a minimum. Some missing documentation for our CN labels, our commercially processed items with our combination foods such as our chicken nuggets, our corn dogs, that we would need a CN label or a product formulation statement to show us how to credit that item. Another thing is our cereal and or our yogurt meeting the sugar limits. And last but not least is our documentation that supports our whole grain rich items as well as our sugar and cereal items as well. So now we're going to look at some record keeping requirements. As we all know, with the new meal pattern and our whole grain and cereal and yogurt requirements, we are now required to keep the labels to back up what we have as well with the items we are serving. So our whole grain labels, our cereal, and our yogurt labels must be kept for the previous month of menus as well as the current month. This is different than the CN labels, as the CN labels must be kept for 3 years plus the current year. So that is one little difference. When keeping your labels, things such as taking a picture of them, making a copy of the label, or even keeping the actual label is acceptable. But one little side note, when we come on site and look at your documentation, if the director took pictures of those items on her phone and she's not there that day, and we would need to see that phone to see the items. So that's one thing, just kind of keep a heads up. Pictures are okay. I would maybe say if you can't get the actual label, to take that picture and go ahead and print it out and put it on a file. That way, if somebody is gone that has the picture, you're still able to get that as well. Not having your labels could result in corrective and physical action. So as we talked about a little bit earlier, our WIC information needs to be distributed to parents or as well as posted. A lot of sponsors have Facebook pages, websites. That information could be posted right on their website as well. Another idea may be to put it in your parent handbook that you give out upon enrollment. The WIC information is to inform parents and guardians of the WIC benefits and its program. We have available on our website, and you see it on the screen, Kansas WIC Program Fact Sheet. It's a 2-pager. You can print it out, put it on your parent bulletin board. give it to parents to view, as well as there's also brochures available. So always check with your local health department as well, and they may be happy to send some brochures your way as well. So next, we'll talk about appeal rights. Appeal is a process for requesting a formal change to an official decision. Sponsors do have the option to appeal financial adjustments. And as you can see, a written request is required within 15 days of the notice for the financial adjustment. And then the sponsor must also specify exactly what is being appealed. Note that corrective actions may not be something you agree with, but corrective actions are not something that are appealable. It is only when financial adjustments are made. So the sponsor has the 15 days to let the KSDE know what they would exactly like to appeal, and then they would need to state if they want to do it two different ways, either all the written documentation within 30 calendar days, or if they would like to request a hearing. And then KSDE will acknowledge receipt within 10 calendar days of the decision to appeal.
All right, so now we're going to go over some frequently asked questions. So, can sponsors claim staff meals for reimbursement? No, staff meals cannot be claimed for reimbursement. CACFP reimbursement is based on the number of meals served to enrolled children who attend the daycare. So the amount of reimbursement per meal is based on the mix of free, reduced, and paid participants at your center. So if the child care staff will want to eat with the children, the cost of their food is an allowable expense for the food service fund, so sponsors are not required to cover the costs with other funds. Next question, can sponsors receive reimbursement for staff time spent working on food program? No, employee wages and food supplies are not claimed for reimbursement, but they are part of the food service fund documentation. So the number and cost of employees' hours spent shopping for food, preparing the food, or administrative time spent determining their enrollment or income eligibility forms or submitting claims online can be included in the food ledgers, and these must be supported by using a time and task form. If more is spent on food and non-food costs than receiving in reimbursement, the wages do not have to be included on the food ledger. So we're going to briefly talk about share tables and at-risk sites only. So share tables are something that if like a child doesn't want something on their plate, then they can put it onto the share table. So these new guidelines were put in place to reduce food waste. And so programs can set up share tables for children to return safe, intact, whole food or beverage items they choose not to eat. So items deposited onto the share table may be recovered in a number of ways. Safe, intact, whole food or beverage items on the share table can be made available to other children who want an additional serving of that item. So other ways that you can do it on served, packaged, or wrapped items, you can store those back and use them in food preparation, or you can reserve them in the program at like a student activity, or you can even donate them to a not-for-profit charitable organization. A very important note is that share table items cannot be offered to adults for personal consumption. So items that can be included on share tables are unopened, non-perishable packaged items such as packaged cereals or crackers, and also tables can include unopened perishable packaged cold items, such as milk cartons, individual containers of yogurt, string cheese, wrapped fresh fruit, and fresh fruit with an inedible peel. And I do want to remind everybody that shared tables are for at-risk sites only. So do want to talk about this called Beyond Lunch. So there are many opportunities for sponsors to feed children outside of the traditional school day meal service periods. The programs that we'll be talking about are the CACFP at-risk after-school meals, the NSLP after-school snack program, the special milk program, and the summer food service program. So typically, the 180-day school year represents just under half of the all days in 1 year. And then if you added the non-traditional times like weekends during summer and school, as well as your breaks for winter, spring break, your holidays, and also your non-school days like teacher and service days. Well, these make up for 1/3 of the entire year. So these days can really add up for kids being out of school and missing out on that vital source of nutrition they get with the school meals. So child nutrition programs like school breakfast, school lunch, after school meals support kids with the food they need to learn and thrive during the school year. And summer meals can help while school is out. Unfortunately, many of these programs only operate on school days or weekend days during the summer. So, but the existing child nutrition programs that I'm going to talk about can serve children in need for 365 days a year. So child nutrition programs make it possible to serve meals any and every day of the year. It's just a matter of choosing the right program based on your organization, the type of day, and the meals you want to offer. The school breakfast program and the national school lunch program, including after-school snacks program, may only operate on days that school is in session. However, the CACFP at-risk after-school meals component can operate both during the school year as well as any other non-school day during the school year, allowing both schools and community-based organizations to serve one meal and/or one snack to every child who attends the enrichment program. During summer vacation, the summer food service program and national school lunch program seamless summer option can operate every day of the week. For anticipated closures during the school year, sites may be able to operate either the summer food service program, seamless summer option, or CACFP at-risk after-school meals. So just going over what CACFP at-risk after-school meal program is. So these sites operate after school and on weekends, and they do have the option to operate on holidays as well. They do provide regular scheduled organization activities that are usually educational or enriching in some way. These sites must be located in a school attendance area where at least 50% of enrolled children are certified for free or reduced price meals. And these sites are reimbursed for up to one snack and one meal per child per day. And these sites also do receive free rate reimbursement for every meal and snack served. The summer food service program, there are many different sites that operate under this program. So just quickly going over some of them, the open sites are usually located in low-income areas, and the sites receive free reimbursement rate for all children that they serve. There are enrolled sites, and they serve only children who are enrolled in their program. There are also camps that participate in this program. Camps they're only reimbursed for serving meals and snacks to the kids that are individually eligible for free reduced price meals. And these sites can be reimbursed up to 2 meals, breakfast and lunch, or 1 meal and 1 snack per child per day. And reimbursement does vary depending on what type of site that you are. A little bit more information about summer food service programs is that CACFP sponsors can help spread the word about these sites by providing information to families of availability and locations for free meals for students. Or you can go to our website at www.caneat.org, Summer Food Service Program, locate a site near you. So moving on to everyone's favorite topic is procurement. So sponsors must use proper procurement practices to ensure free and open competition. Some of the thresholds for these purchasing methods have increased. So for the federal micro purchase threshold, it has increased from 3,500 to 10,000, and the federal simple acquisition threshold, formerly known as the small purchase threshold, increased from 150,000 to 250,000. And then the small purchase threshold for non-food items, including equipment, does remain at 20,000 per state statute. So all purchases must allow for open and free competition among vendors. No vendor may be selected based on geographical location, with the exception of locally grown foods. So it is allowable to give geographical preference to local farmers that they sell produce or other farm products to the sponsor. And we'll talk more about that later. And also, sponsors must use formal purchasing procedures for contracts over 20,000 for non-food and contracts over 250,000 for food. So quick about vended meal contracts. We do offer a vended meal contract template that you can use that is found on our website. So when purchasing meals from an entity such as a school sponsor, a restaurant, a hospital, a catering company, all those contracts that are over 250,000 must be sent to KSDE for approval prior to the sponsor signing the contract. Also, another quick reminder that federal procurement guidelines must be followed, so you must obtain at least 2 or more price quotes and complete the price quotation record. So again, if these contracts are over $250,000, please send those to KSDE for us to review prior to signing the contract. So sponsors are responsible for overseeing all provisions of the contract, making sure that federal and state regulations are being followed. So this includes looking over the bills for meals served, meal production records, the menus. You really want to make sure those menus do meet the meal pattern requirements, because sponsors have the right to disallow payment for unacceptable meals. So an unacceptable meal would be meals that are spoiled or that do not meet the meal pattern. And so if this does happen, sponsors must provide the vendor with a written notification specifying the number of meals for which the sponsor intends to deduct payment, and also listing the reasons for the deductions. So to keep this from happening, sponsors should provide vendors with relevant updates in the meal pattern and menu planning documentation requirements. Again, if you guys do have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box. So CACFP defines a food service management company as an organization other than a public or private nonprofit school with which an institution may contract for preparing and delivering meals with or without milk for use in the program. KSDE has started a registration process for food service management companies. They register with us, and so we are starting to compile a list that will be useful for you to look at to identify potential vendors if you are looking for a food service management company to vend your meals. So definitely keep an eye out for that, because that list will be posted relatively soon. So why is a procurement plan required? So this plan can be valuable in 2 ways. It can serve to clarify the purchasing practice of an organization for the benefit of everyone involved. And secondly, it can guide employees to use the appropriate method of purchasing for each category of items. And it is federal law. The procurement plan provides justification for using a certain purchasing method to obtain an item. The scope of the plan is determined by the organization of the sponsor. The procurement plan must be reviewed annually, updated, and uploaded with the sponsor's code of conduct as part of program certification. So we do have a prototype for the procurement plan that actually includes the written standards of conduct. It is available on our website at www.canny.org CACFP Administrative Handbook and Forms. All right, so Farm to Plate aims to get more local products into child nutrition programs. In Kansas, Farm to Plate encompasses all child nutrition programs, including the Child and Adult Care Food Program. Not only can local foods cover the entire plate, but they can offer throughout the year in a child nutrition program. So we do have a challenge for sponsors to make a pledge to offer a reimbursable meal with at least 2 local foods at least one Friday per month through June 30th, 2020. Now, if Friday doesn't work for you, you can use any other day of the week. We just thought Farm Fresh Friday sounded kind of cool. So, but you can use any day that you like. Just don't forget, when looking at local foods in the Kansas nutrition programs, look at the entire plate when sourcing local foods. These really just broaden children's education about where food comes from and also boosts our local economy. So please sign up to take the pledge using the link found on the screen. For sponsors who do make the pledge to commit working towards Farm Fresh Fridays, we'll get a number of resources to help them. You'll get a Farm Fresh Fridays guide, an updated local food sourcing guide, and you'll also get some success stories that are included in the monthly updates that feature sponsors who are incorporating local foods. And also our Farm to Plate director, Barb Depew, she's very helpful and she will answer any questions that you have. Her information is there on the screen. So what paperwork needs to be on file when using Farm to Plate? Farm to Plate product purchases require the same documentation as any other food purchase. So open and fair competition for purchases require documentation. A vendor letter must be kept on file for local products purchased in the child nutrition programs. If a product is donated to the program, a documentation must show source, date received, and estimated value of the product. There are resources such as receiving logs, storage, temperature, service temperatures, or time as public health controlled records must be obtained. So these records can be found on our website at Farm to School Guidance. Just want to go over some reminders about claims. Claims are due within 60 days. This is not always at the end of the month. So claims must be certified, submitted, and in approved status, not pending submission, by the 60-day deadline. So all changes and edits to claims must be made prior to the 60-day. It used to be 90 days, but that has been eliminated, and it is now 60 days. So please make sure those are all changes, edits, revisions are done by the 60-day deadline. All right, now we're going to move it over to Tara.
We're going to look at some required sponsor monitoring now. Sponsors who have more than one site are required to monitor their sites as well. This will allow them to be able to find and correct problems that are noted on their monitoring form. And the monitoring forms are available in our admin handbook under the form sections. The center site review form is Form 11A, as well as a sample corrective action plan. That is Form 11A as well. Or sorry, that is 11E, if that is needed. So for programs who are in operation for 9 months or less, the first site review must occur within the first 4 weeks of start. And your reviews should be unannounced and varied so that the sites are not able to predict when you are doing the reviews every year. So what is required? At least 2 of the 3 site visits must be unannounced. Complete 3 site visits a year, and at least 1 of those unannounced visits must include a meal visit. No more than 6 months can elapse between reviews. When we look at the summer food service program in our CACFP at-risk meal, it's a little bit different. So sponsors that are operating both SFSP and CACFP at risk are not required to monitor their sites following the SFSP requirements during the summer and then the CACFP requirements during the school year. Instead, it's a little bit easier. They're able to follow the CACFP monitoring schedule year-round. So if a sponsor would choose to follow CACFP monitoring schedule, then 1 of the 3 reviews must occur during the summer. And it must also include a meal service and be unannounced. And then the other 2 reviews occur during the school year as well. And they would be, 1 of them would need to be unannounced and a meal service. So that's a little bit different. When we are conducting our site visits, we also need to complete the 5-day reconciliation. This form is also available on our website. It is rather easy to fill out. As you can see on the screen, it's pretty simple form. This does need to be part of your review, and this form is to ensure consistency when looking at the 3 elements of enrollment, attendance, and meal counts over a 5-day period. When you fill this in and look at the data that is collected on this form, if it's consistent, then it's more than that your site is keeping accurate enrollment and attendance record and reporting accurate meals as well. If this is filled out and it does not seem consistent, or it seems like there could be some issues if you have more people that have, for example, ate breakfast, then that would be in attendance. That could be something that you would need to look into, as you could always have more attendance than what actually ate the meal, but you would not have more people who ate a meal than would be in attendance. If it's determined that there are problems, then the monitor must determine if any meals need to be disallowed as a result of this 5-day reconciliation. If there is a reasonable explanation for the discrepancies, then it would be best to note that on the form, and the meals would not be disallowed. Something that is also available is with our automated data systems. This is an automated system that can check for a consistent 5-day period all of the required elements, the enrollment, attendance, and meal counts. And this system could take place of doing the manual 5-day reconciliation. It is required. The site or the sponsor would need to validate that information to make sure that is correct. If this is a system that you currently have or would be available, you would need to request to use an automated system for the 5-day reconciliation from KSDE. And then we would send you out the information needed and the process to go through, and we would validate that system to make sure that it's accurate, and you would be approved to use that. This is a requirement yearly if you're using an automated system to get it approved from KSDE yearly.
Okay, so we want to do a couple of knowledge checks, and up here on the screen you should see, and if you don't, I can read you the question. So in order to credit beef jerky and child nutrition programs, sponsors must use the food buying guide, look at the nutrition facts label, or obtain a product formulation statement or child nutrition label. So mark which one you think is correct. It looks like everybody has that one right. So in order to credit beef jerky, you do need to obtain a product formulation statement or child nutrition label. Okay, so let's pull up another one. Okay, so this question. What date should certification documents be in pending approval in CAN-CLAIM? September 1st, September 20th, October 1st, or October 31st? So what date should certification documents be in pending approval in CAN-CLAIM? Okay, so the answer here is going to be September 20th. That is when you should have all of your documents in pending approval in CAN-CLAIM. And so that should be your goal when you're working to do that. And all program certification will be available. The goal is by August 1st. Okay, so let's do another one. And if you can't see the questions, sometimes people's version of Skype doesn't allow them to see them, and that's fine. I'm going over the information verbally, so if you can't see that, you can just kind of follow along verbally. So let's see, our next question. So this one says, labels for whole grain rich grains, cereal, and yogurt must be kept for, is it the day the meals are served, the current month, the previous month and the current month, or forever? And you guys got it. Labels should be kept for the previous month as well as the current month. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so next question. Sponsors can keep using the calculation guide, true or false? Okay, the answer here is going to be false. The calculation guide is going away, and instead you should be using the food buying guide for information about how to credit food in the CACFP. Okay, next question. So certification in CAN-CLAIM must be in approved status by September 20th, October 1st, October 31st, or November 30th. So one of our previous questions is when sponsors need to have it in pending approval, which that was September 20th. But in order to be approved so that you can claim October meals, you would need to have everything approved from KSDE by October 31st. So let's see. Let's pull up our next question. Okay, so 1.5 cups of popped popcorn credits as what ounce equivalent of whole grain? Is it going to be a 1/4 ounce, a 1/2 ounce, 3/4 ounce, or 1 ounce? So 1.5 cups of popped popcorn. So the answer is going to be a 1/2 ounce. So 3 cups will credit as a 1 ounce equivalent, but 1.5 cups is going to credit as a 1/2 ounce equivalent. So thanks for following along with the polls, and next we'll kick it off with civil rights.
Okay, we're ready to start with civil rights. And as soon as we can see the screen, we'll go. Is anybody else?
Go up to present screen there. Yep.
We'll get started. Okay. It's loading. Okay. The purpose of civil rights training is to inform and train and educate child nutrition program staff regarding USDA civil rights requirements and increase awareness of the resources and information available to assist in carrying out civil rights responsibilities. Schools and institutions receiving federal funds must follow civil rights regulations and policies. And the Food and Nutrition Service Instructions 113-1 is the federal regulation governing civil rights in child nutrition programs. These civil rights are the non-political rights of a citizen. The rights of personal liberty are guaranteed to United States citizens by the 13th and 14th Amendments to the United States Constitution. Child nutrition programs have always been available to all participants on an equal opportunity basis. Discrimination is defined as the act of distinguishing one person or group of persons from others, either intentionally or by neglect or by the effect of actions or lack of actions based on their protected classes. All participants must be treated in the same manner with respect and dignity. Federal law prohibits discrimination based on 6 protected classes, which are race, color, national origin, age, sex, or disability. All programs need to inform the parents or guardians as well as the local minority organizations about program benefits, the eligibility requirements, program services, and a location as well as the hours of operation. The program must adopt a policy on non-discrimination and develop a procedure for filing a complaint. And then materials must be provided in the appropriate translation as needed. All programs must prominently display the USDA's non-discrimination and Justice for All poster within their establishments where services and benefits are delivered so that participants and potential participants have ready access in places such as cafeteria, lunchroom, entrance to facilities, main offices. The poster has been updated a few years ago. It's now, the current poster is a green version, and it has to be in the 11-inch by 17-inch format. It used to be it was blue and red. So if you have a blue and red one, you need a new one. Let us know. We'll get you a green one. As a child and adult care food program participant, and as a CACFP participant, as a sponsor, you have to have a Building for the Future poster displayed as well. And it's on the slide there. The Building for the Future poster can be printed from our website, the can-eat.org website, under the administrative handbook under forms. And you can print and include your organization's contact information below the line across there, as well as the Federal Department of Agriculture contact information there. The federal non-discrimination statement has to be also on all printed materials when referring to the provision of child nutrition programs. This would include letters to household notifying eligibility or denial of benefits, enrollment forms, any employee handbooks, newsletters, brochures, print or broadcast ads, flyers, and websites. The wording has to be exact and cannot be changed in any way. There is a shorter version of this non-discrimination statement, and that is just as you see there on your slide. It can only be used if the printed materials are 1 page or less. And it reads just as right there. This institution is an equal opportunity provider. Also, as you are developing materials, printing information, remember to convey the message of equal opportunity in all photographs and other graphics that are used to provide program-related information. All programs that participate in any child nutrition program also have to have a system to collect racial and ethnic data for its program participants in accordance with regulations. Each site needs to establish a system to collect this racial and ethnic data. It can be collected on all participants at all sites annually. You can use visual identification if to determine a participant racial and ethnic category is necessary, but this information needs to be kept for 3 years plus the current year in a secure and confidential manner and will be assessed during the Child Nutrition Administrative Review. The collection of this data is to determine how effectively your program's reaching potentially eligible children and if additional outreach is needed. There is a requirement of assurance of program access for limited English proficiency households. LEP individuals do not speak English as their primary language and who have a limited ability to speak, read, or write, or understand English. There needs to be access for these households. When there's a language barrier, or because alternate means of communication are needed, a reasonable effort must be made to provide materials in formats that the target audiences can understand. This could include making information about the program eligibility, benefits, services, and procedures for filing complaints in their appropriate translations to non-English speaking persons, and using an interpreter if needed. Providing alternative means of communication such as Braille, large print, or audio tape that's available to the public, participants, and potential participants are other examples. The USDA provides publications and program materials in several languages. Federal regulations that govern diet modifications in child nutrition programs require sponsors to provide modifications to the standard meal for participants who are considered disabled and whose disability restricts their diets. Nutrition programs are required to modify a participant with disabilities meals and snacks when supported by a statement signed by a licensed medical authority. Federal regulations prohibit modifications for other participants who are not disabled but are able to consume regular program meals or snacks because of medical or other special dietary needs, but it is not required. If a participant has a physical disability, accommodations would include accessibility to the cafeteria, as well as access to the same meal choices as other participants, and the ability to be seated with other participants. Examples could be looking at the entrances and exits, making sure they're wide enough for a wheelchair, tables that accommodate a wheelchair, and accommodations so the child can access the serving line. Other examples include program aids that can help with feeding and adaptive tableware. Complaints of discrimination can be based on the USDA protected classes. Civil rights is recognized in the as we mentioned, the 6 federally protected classes, which were race, color, national origin, sex, age, and disability. And a person can allege that discrimination has occurred and file a discrimination complaint because they feel they were denied benefits, or they received delayed benefits, or they received benefits in a dissimilar manner due to being a member of one or more of the 6 protected classes. Non-compliance is a factual finding that any civil rights requirement as provided by federal and state law, regulation, policy, instruction, or guideline is not being adhered to. There are no minor or major categories of non-compliance. No matter the level or severity, non-compliance must be reported. Some examples of non-compliance would be denying an individual or a household the opportunity to apply by not providing a household an application because the institution doesn't want to serve that population in their city. That is a non-compliance due to national origin. Or providing services in a dissimilar manner with the exception of a disability or accommodation. Such as providing larger portions to just boys because boys need additional food. This would be an example of non-compliance due to sex. Or selecting program sites or facilities in a manner that denies an individual access to the program benefits, assistance, or services on the basis of protected class, such as serving breakfast in a suburban school location only, but not at schools located in areas with high proportion of minorities. This example would be non-compliance in the 3 protected classes: race, color, and national origin. So there are 2 acceptable procedures for handling complaints. The complaints can be sent directly to USDA by completing the corresponding complaint form, either verbally or in writing. The USDA complaint form should be completed by the complainant. The second acceptable procedure for handling complaints would be for the complainant or institution to complete the USDA complaint form and forward the completed form to KSDE, who will then forward the complaint to USDA Mountain Region's Plains office. An individual cannot be required to complete the USDA Civil Rights Complaint Form. However, the form assists all regulatory agencies in determining the correct course of action to take. If a complaint of discrimination is received, the institution must do their best to collect the following information. And that's listed on the slide there, but basically it's who, where, what, why, and when. If you answer those questions, you would cover the things there. And then the names, phone numbers, titles, and business or personal addresses of the persons who may have knowledge of the action. The timeline for federal complaints is 180 days of the incident. That's when the complaints on the federal protected classes must be filed within. They must be written or verbal and may be anonymous. Use the complaint form to collect information about the complainant. Upon discovery of the non-compliance, institutions are required to take corrective action immediately to achieve voluntary compliance within 60 days. If voluntary compliance is not achieved, the USDA regional office will be contacted to resolve the issues. The purpose of this required training is to prevent the violation of all participants' civil rights. The basis for prevention is providing good customer service. Remember that all participants should be treated in the same manner. Each person should have access to the same menu items and serving sizes that follow the meal pattern for their age and age group. All participants should have access to all meals and snacks, activities, and discussions within the child nutrition program. They should be treated with respect, kindness, and courtesy, with positive comments as well as constructive education regarding mealtime and nutrition and manners. Standards of behavior are not based on membership in a protected class. Concerns can often be taken care of within the organization when using good conflict resolution. Use reflective listening by listening and then stating back what was heard. Focus on what the person's saying and not their emotion or their appearance. If someone's extremely upset, remain calm and do not become defensive. Use the love technique, listen to the person, ask open-ended questions, validate the person's concern, empower, emphasize, and educate. And in summary, the goal of civil rights is to eliminate barriers that prevent or deter people from receiving benefits of a government-sponsored funded program. Provide equal treatment in the delivery of program and services to all applicants and participants and beneficiaries of a federal program. Ensure that all applicants and participants understand their rights and responsibilities and show respect and dignity to all. Frontline staff and their supervisors need training annually on the annual civil rights, which can be obtained through attendance at the KSDE administrative workshop, which you're doing right now. Frontline staff are employees who interact with program participants or participants regarding program services and benefits, and program applicants. The one-page handout titled A Quick Guide to Civil Rights Annual Frontline Staff is available on the CANI.org website in Administrative Handbook Chapter 6. You can use that information on this form to train your employees. The Civil Rights tutorial is also available on the KSDE Learning Platform. KSDE will review compliance with the civil rights requirements as part of program certification and the administrative review. A little bit more about the online civil rights training. KSDE has developed an online 30-minute civil rights training for child nutrition program sponsors. The training is located in the KSDE training portal under Child Nutrition Programs General Information. Participants can take the course and will receive a certificate of completion if they receive 80% or greater on the quiz. This is a great way to train staff that you hire throughout the year, so they have their civil rights training done, and lots of sponsors then annually offer a training to everybody as a group. But during the year, as new people come on and you need to catch those, this is a great way to do it. Remember, the USDA non-discrimination statement must be on all program materials. The most updated version of the non-discrimination statement can be found on the caneat.org website on the right-hand side of the page there. It's circled in red. And that's, I think, accessible about any page you're on. You can find that and click on it. Now let's review how to accommodate disabilities in child nutrition programs. I think one of the best things that when you look at the process is a flow chart and break it down step by step. Now, the question isn't whether the child has a disability or not so much anymore. It's whether the child, the substitution can be made within the meal pattern or not. And so let's look at what that looks like. When a sponsor finds out a child needs a modification, the modification within the program meal pattern can be planned and implemented through collaboration with parents, guardian, and child. And so that would follow the top yes there in that line of thinking. The sponsor works with the child, determine what is exactly needs substituted and what are the safe substitutions, or omits the child and allows the parent to bring one item instead of that, it omits that item from their menu and the parent brings the substitute, but still it's made within the meal pattern. But if the modification is something that is not within the meal pattern, it's outside the meal pattern, then that should be supported with a medical statement signed by a licensed medical authority that would need a description of the child's physical or mental impairment that's sufficient to allow the sponsor to understand how it restricts the child's diet. And it should then also include what must be done to accommodate the disability. And then that would follow the path following the no answer. The parent or guardian provides a medical statement. The sponsor provides a reasonable accommodation that meet the requirements of the medical statement. Then, even if that is outside the meal pattern, that meal can still be claimed. This medical statement's much simpler and streamlined than it has been in the past. It's one page, it's been in place for a couple years now, and the forms you have on hand do not need to be replaced. This is to be used as new requests for a meal substitution come up. The sponsors must require a written medical statement, such as this form, signed by a licensed medical authority in order to receive reimbursement for meals served to children with disabilities that do not meet meal pattern requirements. Sponsors can claim a meal outside the regular meal pattern while waiting for the child's parent or guardian to get this medical statement. You shouldn't unduly delay the child's meal modification waiting on the form. In this situation, you would want to document the initial conversation with the family and where you first learned of the child's need for accommodation and what was needed, and then follow up with the family until a medical statement is obtained or the request is rescinded. Form 4B is the same as, that's our form in the administrative handbook. That's our medical statement to request a meal modification. And that's also the same as the school's form, it's Form 19B on the school side. The medical statement that you receive must include the following: information about the child's physical or mental impairment that's sufficient to allow the sponsor to understand how it restricts the child's diet, an explanation of what must be done to accommodate the child, and the food or foods to be omitted and recommended alternatives if appropriate. The medical statement is no longer required to identify the specific disability or use the terms disabled or disability, so statements that use these terms are sufficient. The Form B itself, as I mentioned earlier, what we have on our Form B is a prototype. If you get a note from a physician's office that has all those three criteria, that's perfectly acceptable too. You need to know what the impairment is, what must be done, and what must be omitted and recommended alternatives in order to make the substitution. If you get a form, or if you have a medical statement and it's missing information, the sponsor should start providing the meal or snack that conforms to the medical statement, even if the required information is missing, though, and follow up with the medical authority and parent to obtain missing information. On the very last section of that medical statement, look at that, and if the parent signed that, that gives you permission to contact the physician's office to get clarification, to find out exactly what's needed. In Kansas, our medical authorities are a licensed physician, physician's assistant, an advanced registered nurse practitioner. Those are the people that can sign the medical statement. And because they're by Kansas law, the recognized medical authority. Meal modifications within the meal pattern, USDA encourages sponsors to use flexibility whenever possible. In situations where the sponsor doesn't obtain a medical statement, USDA encourages sponsors to make note of the actions taken and acknowledging the child's meal modifications. Doing so will help safeguard the children in all areas of the sponsor's environment. But sponsors may, however, choose to request a written medical statement from a medical authority in support of a request for a modification in all cases. The procedural safeguard process requires sponsors to provide notice and information to parents and guardians regarding how to request a reasonable modification and their procedural rights, which include the right to file a grievance if they believe a violation has occurred regarding the request for the modification, receive a prompt and equitable resolution of the grievance, request and participate in an impartial hearing, be represented by counsel at the hearing, examine the record, and receive notice of the final decision and a procedure for review, that is, a right to repeal the hearing's decision. Sponsors that employ 15 or more individuals must ensure their procedural safeguards process provides for a prompt and equitable resolution of grievances, and must designate at least one person to coordinate compliance with disability requirements. This individual is also often referred to as the Section 504 coordinator. The process of providing modified meals to children with disabilities should be as inclusive as possible. It is essential that the staff work together with the child's parent or guardian to ensure their child receives safe meals and has an equal opportunity to participate in child nutrition programs. Using a team approach would ensure that information is shared consistently throughout the environment and will help protect children in all situations, where the food's served, whether it's in the classroom, meal times, parties, or other places. To learn more about meal modifications, there's an online class developed and is free of charge at and available 24/7 at KSDE or https://learning.ksde.org. So it's our learning portal. There's a meal modification class, and I think that's a good. You can go a long time without any meal modifications, and then all of a sudden they pop up, and this is a great way to go back and refresh what it was exactly you needed to do. USDA also encourages sponsors to provide a variety of foods for children to select from in order to accommodate food and lifestyle preferences. Sponsors can make modifications within the meal pattern in order to be reimbursable. When a modification is made within the meal pattern, sponsors are not required to obtain a medical statement for food or lifestyle preferences. The meal modifications to accommodate a food preference for religious, ethnic, moral, and other reasons may be reimbursed if they adhere to standards found in program regulations. The most important of which I think would be that the parent can provide one item in a meal and it could still be counted. If they provide two different of the components, then the sponsor can no longer claim that meal. One of the most common requests for modification seems to me to be milk. Meal modifications for cow's milk involve requesting a non-dairy beverage that meets USDA substitution criteria that can be substituted for cow's milk to accommodate a meal modification request within the program meal pattern. A meal modification request for a milk substitute that does not meet USDA substitution criteria is outside the program meal pattern and requires a medical statement signed by a licensed medical authority. A meal modification request for a non-dairy beverage that doesn't meet the criteria cannot be accommodated within the meal program pattern and requires a medical statement signed by that licensed medical authority. A personal preference request for a milk substitute can be accommodated if the non-dairy beverage meets USDA substitution criteria, but the sponsor is not required to do so. The only substitutes that are allowed for milk that are allowed are lactose-free milk, which is still milk, or non-dairy beverages that are nutritionally equivalent to milk. This chart outlines for us the criteria that needs to be met for the non-dairy beverages to be nutritionally equivalent to fluid milk. This chart has a lot of detail, but the first thing to usually check is the protein amount. That's usually one of the first places that they don't meet the criteria when you're looking at that in the store. If they meet that, then you can start looking at all the other qualities there. So, a quick question. If a parent requests that a child be served lactose-free milk, is a medical statement required? No. Lactose-free milk is made from cow's milk and contains the same essential nutrients as milk does. A medical statement's not required. When serving lactose-free milk, sponsors should use the appropriate fat content, and remember that children under 6 years of age must receive unflavored milk. So it's important to note that lactose-free, 2% lactose-free milk wouldn't work for a 3 to 5-year-old that needs lactose-free milk. It still needs to be the low-fat milk. If a parent requests that a child is served almond milk, is a medical statement required? Yes. In order to serve almond milk to a participant, the sponsor must receive a medical statement signed by a medical authority. The reason why is almond milk has never so far met the nutritionally equivalent substitution chart for a milk substitute. Maybe someday it will, but so far it hasn't. And so almond milk is usually a red flag that you need to have them get a medical statement. If a parent requests that a child is served soy milk, is a medical statement required? The answer, it depends. There are some soy milks that are nutritionally equivalent to milk and would not require a medical statement. However, a soy milk that's not nutritionally equivalent to milk would require a medical statement signed by a medical authority. So it depends on what type of soy milk that they're asking for. The next section is confidentiality in child nutrition programs. It's important that we ensure a child's eligibility is confidential, that it's not disclosed at any point. CACFP confidentiality provisions protect eligibility information contained in applications for children's free and reduced price meals. Sponsors may only disclose CACFP eligibility information to persons and organizations authorized by the Richard B. Russell National School Lunch Act. We're ready for a knowledge check.
So let's do a couple of polls here. So first question. The protected classes in USDA child nutrition programs are, first choice, race, religion, national origin, sex, disability, and age. Next one is race, color, religion, sex, age, and disability. The next one is race, disability, sex, hair color, religion, and age. The next one would be race, color, national origin, sex, disability, and age. So for child nutrition programs, the answer is going to be D. So it's going to be race, color, national origin, sex, disability, and age. Religion is not a protected class in child nutrition programs. So let's do our next one. Okay, so households must be informed how to request a meal modification. Absolutely, no way, maybe, or it depends. So the answer here is that absolutely. Households must be informed how to request a meal modification as part of civil rights. Okay, so let's go to our next question. Okay. A civil rights complaint based on a protected class must be filed within how many days? 5, 10, 30, or 180? Okay, so I see the responses coming in, and the correct answer is 180 days. So there's quite a bit of time that can go past before you can't file a complaint. So you have 180 days to file that complaint. Or one of your program participants. So I'm going to do one more question before we move on. Can boys and girls be required to sit at separate tables in the classroom for meals? Yes, no, or it depends. So you guys have it right. 100% of you know they cannot be required to sit at separate tables in the classroom. Okay, so next we're going to move on to determining eligibility in the CACFP.
Okay, so I'm back. This is this next section, I think, is one of the most notable changes. And I feel like I've been trying to talk as fast as I can to get through that last section, but I'm going to slow down now. And so certainly as we go over this, I want you guys to chime in with questions, because this is going to be talking about our new enrollment and income eligibility form. And some of you may be seeing this for the first time. I know a lot of you it's not, because we've gotten lots of questions about it, which is awesome. This new form has been created for child care centers as well as accompanying instruction sheet for parents. So there's another section to that. There's no longer a separate enrollment and eligibility form for military posts. We're going to walk through the new form a little bit here and look at some of the key points. Number one is sponsors need to print both sides of the updated enrollment and income eligibility form. The instruction page is optional. That's a separate third sheet, if you will. There's a front and back of the form, and then there's a third sheet that just explains to the parents the importance of completing this form for you. The new enrollment and income eligibility form will not be issued by KSDE each July moving forward. As you will see, there's no longer a date at the top of the form. It's still a requirement that families complete one annually, but the form itself that we're providing won't change. Sponsors of centers should have started using this new form beginning July 1st. As forms expire or during your annual update period, families should complete the updated enrollment and income eligibility form. At-risk after-school meals and emergency shelter participants are not required to have an enrollment and income eligibility form on file. However, if those same participants are claimed through the traditional component of CACFP, they must have an enrollment and income eligibility form on file. Note, outside school hours care centers do not require an enrollment form, but do collect income forms. A current and complete enrollment and income eligibility form for each participant must be on file to claim reimbursement for meals. Now, a question. Can sponsors use the USDA household application for free and reduced price school meals in place of the updated enrollment and income eligibility form? The answer is yes. However, sponsors must ensure they annually collect enrollment information for children claimed under CACFP. So this USDA household application, that's the school version of the form. So that can be used instead of this form, but the enrollment pieces that are across the top of our CACFP form aren't necessarily on that other form, all of them. So let's look at CAN claim and where we would find this information. Under the income eligibility forms and guidelines can be found on the caneat.org website under CACFP key links. And that page has got a lot of information there, but just start down the top. You're going to find the third item there that has the form itself. There's a Spanish version right under it. Right above that is the form instructions. And then the new, below that, the fifth item on the list is the income eligibility guidelines. When you click on that, it's going to look different. You'll see that the format, and it's colored if you want to print it colored, but the point is it's a little different format this year, hopefully make it a little easier to see and follow across with the due categories and not get free mixed up with reduced and household size. Okay, now let's talk about our income eligibility guidelines. This is a question, kind of a finer point there. When we look at our guidelines and how we determine which way we want to go when we're determining our forms. If we have a sponsor who's elected on their sponsor application and can claim that their income applications are effective based on the date the parent or guardian signs the completed application. That's one of the choices that everybody's going to make again or choose when you do certification. If a parent, so you choose that your income applications are effective based on the date the parent or guardian signs it, then the parent signs the form on June 25th, 2019, and the sponsor determines the form, though, on July 5th, 2019. Which income eligibility guidelines should the sponsor use? So we're talking about the income eligibility guidelines. Which would it be? It'd be the top one, July 1st to 18 through June 30th, 19, because that's what you said you were going to choose when that income application is effective based on the date the parent or guardian signed it. Next question. A sponsor is elected on their sponsor application and can claim that the income applications are effective based on the date the determining official signs the form to certify the eligibility of the participant. If a parent signs the form on June 25th and the sponsor determines it on July 5th, what income eligibility guidelines should the sponsor use? Well, it'd be July 1, 19 through June 30, 20, because you're basing it on when the determining, you chose to base it on when the determining official signs the form to certify eligibility of the participant. What if a parent marks, my children will not qualify for free reduced meals, but then completes the income information in Part 4 of the enrollment income eligibility form? So Part 4 is the income section. The sponsor should contact the household and seek clarification prior to determining the form. The sponsor should document the details of the contact, enter the information received on the application, initial and date the entry. And the best place to make those notes is below the bold line on the form. So make a note, follow up. You can't just assume that it's free or assume that you go by the income information. You want to follow up and document that you did that. Is a new enrollment and income eligibility form for a preschool student required if a school already has a form on file for a school-age child in the same household? So this is a question for those preschool programs. No, the application for meal benefits on file for the household can't extend to the preschool child if you already have a form on file. However, enrollment information for the child must still be collected. And so there would need to be another piece that would have the enrollment information somewhere. What should a school sponsor do if they receive an application for a child participating in CACFP, but the school already has a form on file for the school-age child in the same household? This has happened, and here's what should happen. The school should contact the family, letting them know that they already have an application for meal benefits on file. The school should ask the family if they want to use the form already on file or make a new determination based on the enrollment and income eligibility form. Schools should attach the enrollment and income eligibility form to the application for meal benefits and make a note on the enrollment and income eligibility form that the school contacted the household and wishes to use the application for meal benefits, which had previously been determined. Next, what should a school sponsor do if they determine an enrollment income eligibility form, but the school already had a determined application for meal benefits on file? The answer is the school must use the most current form that has been determined for the household. If that changes the meal benefits for the school-age children, those changes must be made and the family must be notified. It's recommended that schools keep the original application for meal benefits together with the enrollment income eligibility form in their records. The next part is just a kind of a review of key points here on CACFP enrollment. All children that attend a center participating in CACFP must have an enrollment form on file to be claimed for meals. Excluding from the enrollment form requirement are emergency shelters, outside school hours care sites, and sites that are solely at-risk after-school meals. The enrollment forms have to have the child's name, date of birth, normal days, hours of care, normal meals served during care, ethnicity, race information, and then the parent's or guardian's signature and date. A new enrollment form must be completed by the parent or guardian, not by the caregiver, each year. Enrollment's current for 12 months from the date of the parent's signature. Incomplete forms will result in lost reimbursement income. It's a best practice to have forms double-checked by another staff person to catch those things. The point of the determining signature is that when you sign that, you're saying everything on that form is complete, followed up on, and done. And so that's what you're signing off on. And then the confirming signature is signing off saying, I went over this and I'm double checking it and I'm confirming she was right, or it's all complete and correct. Determining a refresher on determining eligibility. There's been no changes to eligibility determination in the eligibility manual. If you'd like a refresher, here are some options. Quick. Administrative workshops are required for the determining official before they start the application approval process. We have the administrative handbook. That's your best resource for current guidance on all aspects of child nutrition programs. Be sure and download the current version of the handbook, Chapter 9, from our website for those details. There's a resource, Enrollment and Income Eligibility Guidance. It's located right below where you found the forms to print off on the caneat.org website. And it's also located on the, well, it's okay, in the handbook, okay, as well as the forms page. That enrollment income eligibility guidance has all kinds of little scenarios in that will come up as you start determining these forms. So it's most helpful to decide how to handle little questions that come up. It's also most effective to use a team approach to build understanding of what's required to accurately determine eligibility. This gives staff the opportunity to discuss how to handle different situations, but don't hesitate to call us at KSDE whenever you have questions about determining eligibility. Preventing determination errors can eliminate costly problems later. As I mentioned, the determining official signature, that's one of the findings that we often, that result in significant fiscal action. It's when the official doesn't sign and date each household application. The determining official must certify that each household application or each enrollment income eligibility form is determined, meaning you've decided which category it goes in, and then that the application is complete and dated. It's a best practice that in some centers where there's a lot of paid enrollment, it's still a best practice that the determining official sign and date all applications, even those of the paid children. That way you can look at all the forms and make sure everything's complete on all the forms, being thorough. They're less likely to miss signing and dating those that are free and reduced. Okay, Tara, you're up next.
All right, we're going to finish out with some announcements and resources. Just a reminder about CAN-CLAIM and our being the authorized rep. A new form is required to be filled out and submitted to the office time you have a change of authorized rep. This is very important because electronic communication is key. All of the monthly updates, the correspondence, things like that are sent out to the authorized representative. So we need to be vigilant and make sure that the information that we have on file is the most current. There is a quick reference guide for CAN-CLAIM for anybody, any new users as well. All of our listserv messages, things like that, are all sent to the authorized rep. So it is very important to keep your sponsor and site information updated as often as possible. Another thing we have with CAN-CLAIM, the authorized rep is responsible for their own login and passwords. We do say that the passwords and usernames should not be shared with others. The authorized rep does have the permissions for the designated user. They will allow the designated users for your sponsor. If you need to reset a password, go through the process of the forget your password. KSDE does not have the passwords. We do not know your passwords and are not able to reset them. If you do forget them, you do have to click on the forget your password and go through that process. In order to gain access to CAN-CLAIM, the new authorized reps must register, and we have those registers, those in our office before access is given to the new authorized rep. So that paperwork is received, then you will receive an email confirmation of that, and you are able to have access to CAN-CLAIM. So our annual certification, we do have 2 webinars that are going to be available August 1st at 1:30 as well as August 2nd at 9:30. These webinars are both going to include the same information, so don't feel like you would need to tune in to both of them. One of them is great. The certification materials should be available in CAN-CLAIM August 1st, and as Jill talked about with our poll question earlier, certification deadline is September 20th, 2019. So all site applications, sponsor applications, budgets, all your checklist uploads, everything needs to be in pending approval, which means you click the button to send everything to the state by September 20th. A link for the certification webinars will be provided in the monthly CACFP update. So that is available as well. We do have a quick reference guide available for program certification that can be found on our website as well. So as we talked about earlier, on September 20th is the certification deadline. Sponsors must be in pending approval. If they are in pending submission, that means that you have not clicked the button that you certify everything is true and correct and to send to state. So it must be in pending approval by September 20th. October 31st, program certification must be in approved status in CANCLAIM, or sponsors could lose their reimbursement for October and be terminated. So if a sponsor does not have program certification completed and approved by October 31st, they will be terminated for cause, or terminated that you then must go through the process to reapply to be participating in the CACFP. So everybody mark that September 20th in your calendar and try to shoot for that date so that we don't have to worry about any termination. Some more updates with certification. We are going to have updated program agreements again this year. Each sponsor is required to send 2 original copies of the program agreement that they have signed to our office in Topeka. It must be all pages of the agreement, not just the signature pages. These can be downloaded from the checklist tab in CANCLAIM. Once program year 2020 comes available August 1st, under the checklist tab is where you're going to find the program agreement. So get those on your radar too and get signed and sent to the office as soon as possible. It is also noted that sponsors who have more than one site need to have a different site manager for each of the applications in CANCLAIM, so that if we're needing to contact that site, we are able to get a hold of that site manager. Also, there are some questions on the center applications asking about a pricing program. So a pricing program is a program that charges separate from daycare fees. You have an option to operate a non-pricing or a pricing program. The majority of you are non-pricing programs, as you do not charge a separate fee for your meals as your daycare costs or tuition, things like that. If you are a pricing program, you also have to follow the regulations set forth in the 7 CFR 226.23, and there is a verification of eligibility that is conducted annually. If you have any questions on the pricing program, I'm not sure if maybe that's where you're at, or you're not sure if you're pricing or non-pricing, let us know and we'll be happy to help you out. So as last year, all of our forms that need uploaded for certification are under the checklist tab, and you will see here now our little screenshot. Everything is in pending approval. Sure that all the forms on the checklist tab that have the red check mark next to them on the left-hand side are uploaded. You will not see the checkbox to send everything to us for approval until everything that is required to be uploaded is uploaded. Once everything is uploaded, at the bottom of your checklist tab, you'll probably have to scroll clear to the bottom. There will be the submit button to submit all forms to state. Once you click the box and submit it, it will put all your information on the checklist tab. Everything will be in pending approval status, and this is when we are able to go in and do the approval or ask questions. We do have a certification guide for centers available for certification again. We'll walk you step by step through each sponsor app, site app, your budget management plan, things like that. if you would like to use it or would need help on any sections that you are stuck on. It will be available on our website under CACFP and Program Certification. So now we're going to talk a little bit about some of our professional development opportunities available. KSDE does have local training available. This is a very cost-effective trainings that we have available. There are lots to choose from. You would need to contact Cindy Johnson for those trainings. If you ever would like a list of them or any questions, you can contact Cindy, and she will be able to help you out as she is our professional development director. We do have our statewide CACFP training coming up in September that we touched on this morning. This is a fall training, a 3-day training as well. You are not required to attend all 3 days. Our first day is feeding infants, as well as our Team Up for CACFP Success for our at-risk meals. Wednesday is going to be Leading the Way, Healthy Habits for a New Generation. And Thursday will be our financial management training for sponsoring organizations. A sponsoring organization is any sponsor who has more than one site or provider. So everyone is welcome. This conference will be held in Wichita, and be watching your monthly updates, as we also will have stipends available to offset some of the costs for the sponsors who would like to attend these trainings. Diana talked earlier about our Grades 101 training that is available coming up shortly, starting next month in August and continuing into September. We also have our food safety training requirement. As you all know, this has not changed. Each sponsor must have a representative from their program with current food safety training certification. Your training is good for 3 years, or unless someone from your organization who is the current person trained in food safety departs your program. It would be a best practice to have all of your staff that work with the food preparation, serving, things like that, to take a food safety class, as it includes great information. And we also have an online food safety training, as well as some face-to-face classes throughout the state available throughout the year. Some of our current online trainings that we have available, you'll see on the screen, there are quite a few that are available on our online training portal. We encourage you all to go out and check them out, and let us know, give us your feedback on the as well as how they are, what you see, what you would like to see in the future, things like that. If you have problems getting certificates, things like that, let us know, and we can work with you to make sure that you receive credit for those trainings. In order to access the trainings, you will go to our online training portal. That's available on our website under the training. You do need to register to receive access to the trainings, and these are available 24/7. So they can be taken any time of day. They're not just for during the workday. A couple of our resources that we would like to point out that we have available, of course, is the information in this workshop. Like Jill stated earlier, if you were not able to download the slides, look at your emails, and we are able to send those attachments as well. Always be looking at our admin handbook. It is updated as we get new information as well. You'll always know that the highlighted areas have been the most recent updates. your program agreement. I encourage everybody to read through that, and as we are signing new ones this year, that's another great time to look at your program agreement, as well as our monthly updates. This is why we need our authorized reps to have the most current emails, and also let us know if time goes by and you do not receive any correspondence from us, as we will check to make sure that we've got the right information on our end as well. And as always, you can always look at your previous year's records to give you a good idea. In order to gain access to some of the resources we have, we say always check our website, and under the What's New is where you'll find the announcements and updates, as well as our monthly updates are also posted there. And always feel free to give us a call or shoot us an email as well. We do have an opportunity we would like to share. This is a Team Nutrition CACFP Organizations Network that's available. As you can see, there is the address on the screen where you can sign up to become a part of this network. And this would be a great network to join for all of our sponsors. We also have available the Healthier CACFP Award. This award has been available, and this is a great award that you can use to promote your program and how it would stand out from others. As you'll see, for a child care center, there is a sub-grant monetary award of $500, as well as $200 for a daycare home. For more information, you can contact Emily Brinkman, as well as her information is listed on our slide. If you have questions, always feel free to reach out to your consultants as well, and we can direct you into the right person and what we need to do to get going. So this concludes everything that we've given you guys for this afternoon. I know it's been a lot. If anybody has any questions, feel free to type them in the chat box. Let us know if there's any questions or anything that you guys have on your minds right now. So, since you would like to receive credit for this webinar as your admin workshop training, go ahead and go to the SurveyMonkey, complete the survey, and then you will be able to receive attendance as well as your certificate for attending this class.
Okay, Brandy, good question. So is the infant feeding class on Can Eat the same as the one offered in Wichita on September 10th? And no, it's not. This is a brand new class. It's based on the new infant feeding guide, and I think we've piloted it earlier, several months ago for USDA, and I think it's going to be a really great training that will answer a lot of your questions that you get about feeding infants. And just to reiterate, in order for this to count for your required admin workshop training, you do have to complete that attendance survey. We included the link in the chat box, and so do make sure you get that done. If you're having difficulty getting that completed, please let us know in the chat box. You are not required to attend an in-person training if you do complete the training via this webinar. So yeah, just make sure that you get that done.
And then our last thing is our evaluation that we have available. Feel free to copy the QR code. It will bring up the evaluation as well, or click on the link. And the link has been provided in the chat box as well. And we welcome any comments or suggestions that you may have so that we could improve this training. This afternoon, we'd just like to thank everybody for attending. And like Jill said, if you're having problems completing those surveys, let us know in the chat box and we'll be happy to help you. Don't hesitate to ever reach out to any of the Topeka office or the consultants, as we are always here to help you, and we hope for a great program year.
Hey, Tara, we just had a question come through. So the Building for the Future poster, where can we find that at?
Okay, the Building for the Future poster is available on our website in the admin handbook, I believe.
So you'll go to the forms section, and if you can't find it, Brandy, shoot your consultant or myself an email, and we'll be happy to send you the link to it. And you do need to have it. So Yvonne, what you'll need to do up in the link, so if you see in the chat box, you will click on that https://SurveyMonkey, and that is where you will complete. All you have to do is put in your sponsor name and number, and your name, so that we know that you took it. And then if you scroll down, I think there were a couple more questions maybe that came through. So Deb, the slides are not on the website. If you want those, you can put your email address in and we'll get those sent to you. Yvonne, if you're still having problems, will you type in the chat box your sponsor name and number, so that I can get that recorded? And then the evaluation. So can you go back up one slide here, and then Hannah, do you want to copy and paste that link? So the link that Hannah is getting ready to post in is going to be the evaluation link, and you this is what, it's not a requirement, but we'd love your feedback. And so you don't have to put in 3 people's names. You just need to put in the one, and it should submit. If that's not, let me know. Okay, so we have